Hello and welcome to the August 15th, 2015 meeting of TV Toastmasters. My name is Rick Barron and I'm the Vice President of Public Relations, and I'll be serving as your Toastmaster today. Welcome to those of you who are here in our studio and our special guest, Diane Forbes. Diane, thank you for joining us today. If you're out there in video land watching us, TV land watching us, you can learn more about us at www.tvtoastmasters.com. We're going to start our meeting today with our impromptu speaking portion of the meeting, and I'd like to introduce our Tabletopics master, Rick Davis.
Thank you, Rick. I thought today for Tabletopics we would do What's the Deal? So I'm going to say, what's the deal about something, and then you come up and talk about it. So for example, what's the deal about yard sales? You could tell me about a yard sale that you've had, or some great treasure that you found, or all the money you've made, something like that. So it's what's the deal, all right? What's the deal about Cincinnati chili? Diane? Come on in.
Thank you. What's the deal about Cincinnati chili? Well, a lot of people in Cincinnati, this is the thing, because I wasn't raised in Cincinnati, people from Cincinnati love chili, whether it be Gold Skyline or the other one, Gold Star Chili, I think. But I don't specifically like the chili. I get invited to I've been invited from coworkers to go to these chili places. I'm like, I don't really like chili. So anyhow, I don't see what a big deal it is about chili.
Thank you. What's the deal about air conditioning? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master, fellow Toastmasters, our honored guests, both here in the studio and at home. What's the big deal about air conditioning? Either central or room, I'm assuming.
Right.
The big deal about air conditioning is that it's essential. You can't not have air conditioning here. At least from my perspective, you can't. Growing up in a northern state, not Ohio, I find when the temperature gets up around 85 to 90 degrees and the humidity is, around 85 or 90%, I am running, dripping by 8:30 in the morning. And it really is annoying when you're trying to do things and you're sweating so that things slip out of your hands, or you're working on something and the sweat is just dripping onto whatever it is you're working on. When I first came to Cincinnati, there were people who said to me, "Steve, why are you sweating so already? It's only 8:30 in the morning." And I was like, I'm just not used to having a little bit of fog in the morning and this high humidity. You somewhat feel like you're chewing the air. So for me, air conditioning is a must-have, because if nothing else, at least I get some respite at night when you're trying to sleep, rather than thinking to yourself, "Oh, this is just disgusting. I'm all sweaty and my sheets are all waterlogged and I sure do wish I could fall asleep." Mr. Tabletopics Master.
So what's the deal about TV Toastmasters? Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master. What's the deal with TV Toastmasters? Absolutely nothing. I don't get with fusses. Thank you. No, seriously, no. The deal is that this is my first Toastmasters Club ever. And I came here because I was starting to get into a leadership position at work, or really working my way towards it at the time. And I figured, you know what? Soon enough, I'm going to be standing up in front of groups of 17, 20, maybe 30 people and delivering training, rolling out updates to systems, explaining to them that they shouldn't be doing the stupid things that they've been doing recently. None of which is easy. I mean, I kind of grew up exposed to the idea of public speaking, but I was really, really, really rusty after years of not ever having had to do it. So I needed practice, and the easiest way to practice is to sit and force yourself to watch all the horrible, horrible habits that you have when you speak. I did not know I did this a lot when I talked. I didn't know I did this and hid behind a podium a lot when I talked. It would work better if we'd had a podium, but what the heck. And I discovered how much I hate the sound of my own voice, because I don't sound like that when I'm talking. Really, I don't. I have a deep, manly, powerful voice in my head, and when I hear myself, it sounds like I'm a shrieking little gerbil. I hope I don't actually sound like that to everyone else, but it doesn't sound the way I think I sound. I think I'm James Earl Jones, and I'm not. So the deal is, it gives me a very realistic assessment of what I'm good at and what I'm really not so good at, and what, oh, for the love of God, I should never, ever do again. So that's the deal with TV Toastmasters, Mr. Tablemaster. Thank you.
Thank you. So what's the deal about Carol Cormelick? Rick?
Not yet, because I gotta get it.
Carol Cormelick. For those of you that don't know Carol, Carol is one of our charter members who helped start the club many, many years ago. She oscillates between, I'll say, 4 and 6 different clubs concurrently, while in many cases serving in an area or district role. She's now an area governor out in Las Vegas at the National Convention. Toastmasters is Carol's life. She wears a button everywhere she goes that says, "My club is fun." And in many cases, uses it as a way to recruit people to meetings. Because more often than not, people see her button and say, "What is that button that you're wearing?" If friendship is measured by the amount of time that you spend with someone, Carol is likely one of my best friends, because we eat out after every Toastmasters meeting here at TV Toastmasters. Not only do I get an opportunity to share this with her, but we get to break bread, actually tortilla chips, because we usually go to Moe's afterwards for Mexican food. Carol Cormelick is a powerhouse at 82 years old. I hope I have half the energy, excitement, and enthusiasm for life at 60 that she does at 82. Mr. Tabletopics Master.
I'll turn it back to our Toastmaster for today.
Thank you, Rick. The impromptu speaking portion of our meeting is one of my favorite, because what it does is it allows us to think on our feet. When you're sitting in that meeting and the boss says, "I don't know, Rich, what do you think?" It gives you an opportunity to practice those responses and rehearse that muscle, exercise it, and make it stronger and stronger. Now we move into the prepared speech portion of our meeting. In this portion of our meeting, members work from a manual with certain objectives and criteria that they are trying to learn and accomplish. They rehearse and deliver a speech here that will then be evaluated in a future portion of our meeting. Today, we're fortunate that our speaker today is practicing his humorous speech for the area contest. We're looking forward to great things, but I forgot the title.
You are not a special snowflake.
You are not a special snowflake, Rich Gant. Rich Gant, you are not a special snowflake. Thank you.
So let me set the stage for you to start this off. I'm at work. It's 5:30 in the morning, and I've been there for a half an hour already. Me and the one other guy in my department that comes in at that time in the morning. 2 people on an entire cubicle-filled production floor. It's pitch black outside. It's kind of dark inside, too, because we're on the phones. We don't walk around much, and the motion sensors that control the lights don't think anybody's here, so we just have emergency lights and our monitors to work with. My phone beeps in my ear. I answer it, and it's a representative from one of the other sites who's got somebody who wants to talk to a supervisor at 5:30 in the morning. I sigh. I get the details and the account information, take over the call. Good morning, my name's Richard Gant, and I'm a supervisor here. How can I help you? Your representative isn't being very helpful with my account. Well, put my game face on. I'm sorry to hear that. If I just get a couple pieces of information to verify you on your account, I'll be happy to help you. Can I start by asking you for your username? I don't have one. I look at his account information. Yes, he does. But maybe he doesn't understand what that means. Your username is what you use in conjunction with your password to log on to our website. Do you happen to know what that would be? He guesses wildly 3 or 4 times. None of them come close. Well, I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have that on file. So let me try something else. Do you have your account number available? I don't know it! Well, I'm going to need one of those 2 pieces of information to establish you as the account owner. Do you have a statement handy? Why aren't you helping me? I just want my account balance. Are you stupid? People in hell want ice water, but I can't say that. I'm on the phone. It's on a recorded line. Well, no, sir. It's just that there's certain pieces of information I need to get in order to... I want my account balance now! Let me get this straight, sir. What you're saying is that anytime anybody calls into this account that you say you own, we should just go ahead and take their instructions and do whatever they say without knowing that they're the account owner? He starts screaming incoherently. Because somehow, I'm the unreasonable one. As you might have guessed from that, I work in customer service. Specifically, I work for a large national brokerage firm whose name isn't important. Actually, the business that I'm in isn't even important because I'm not really here to talk about that business. I'm not even here to talk about horrifying customer service experiences because those are all the rage right now online. No, I'm here to talk about horrible customers. We're here to talk about horrible customers and maybe give you a few tips on how not to be one. Hopefully, you're not going to have any deja vu as we go through this. So, to start with, the first thing you can do to not be a horrible customer is, if you have to have account information or some other information available to identify yourself as an account owner, have it available. Doesn't that sound simple? Doesn't that sound like common sense? Yes, it does. But you know what's lacking in any great supply anywhere? Common sense. Because, think about this. It doesn't matter if you're a CFO, it doesn't matter if you're a lawyer, a doctor, or a guy who flips burgers for a living. To us, you're a voice on the other end of the phone. We can't see you. Video chat doesn't happen right now, not in my industry. We don't know you. We talk to lots of people every day. We can't look at your driver's license. We're not going to take it on trust that you own this account. We have to identify you. That means just asking a couple of basic questions. Please, for your own safety and the safety of everything you've saved up in your life, work with us. Related to that is another very simple concept. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. I have lost track of the number of times this has happened. I answered the phone. Hi, welcome to my company. How can I help you today? My name is Melanie Jones Gant. Now, I recognize that some women have deep, gravelly voices. Some men have higher-pitched, musical, beautiful-sounding feminine voices. But when you hear somebody say, I'm Melanie Jones Gant, that's probably a man pretending to be a woman. I'm sorry. And it's usually the husband. And that goes something like that. Well, just a moment, Miss Gant. Let me go ahead and ask you a couple of questions to verify you in your account. Look down on the account, see that Miss Jones Gant has a husband named Richard. Mr. Gant, can I ask you your wife's name? It's Melanie. Sir, by any chance, are you Richard Gant? Yes. Okay, I'm going to have to be able to speak to your wife before we get... I handle her accounts! He might. Melanie Jones Gant might be very comfortable with letting her husband handle her finances, but you know what? Just because you're married to the person doesn't mean you have a legal right to access her accounts unless you're also on the account. And it definitely doesn't mean you have a right to pretend to be her. That's a little something called fraud. Don't do that. It doesn't end well for anybody. Really, it doesn't. Another thing you do to avoid being a horrible customer is remember that you are not a special snowflake. You are not unique and beautiful and above and beyond all the petty concerns of the world. When you call in and there's a 47-minute hold time to get to a representative, yes, that's frustrating. And no, our hold music is kind of horrible. I have to listen to it too. But remember, there's a lot of other people calling, and all of them are calling for the same reasons you are probably. There's a problem with their account, they've got a question they don't understand, something went wrong with the website, they want it fixed. They have a right to get that fixed too. You do not get special cutsies powers because you're a special snowflake, because you aren't one. Have a little patience. But the most important thing you can do to avoid being a terrible customer is just be polite. When you get hold of somebody, you've had a miserable day, possibly. You've been on hold for 47 minutes, listening to the first 3 bars of Pachelbel's Canon for 12 minutes. But that guy on the phone has just finished being yelled at by a guy because the customer he talked to before doesn't understand federal regulations. And now that representative thinks that everybody who calls him is a mouth-breathing lunatic with unreasonable demands. Be polite. Catch him off guard. He will move heaven and earth to help you if you're polite. Unless he really is the idiot you're expecting, but that's no more likely of him than it is of you. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Rich. Next time I'm on the phone with somebody, I'll hold my tongue. 1 minute, please, for our evaluator to finish their evaluation.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well. There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to our TV Toastmasters meeting. Big round of applause for Mr. Snowflake. Mr. Gant. Many of us, I think, have been on the giving side of the story that Rich just told. Interesting to hear what it feels like on the receiving side. Thank you, Rich. We now transition to the evaluation portion of our meeting. In Toastmasters, we evaluate everything. That's how we grow together, and how you can benefit from coming to join us by growing in a comfortable, safe environment. That's what we do here at Toastmasters. The evaluator for Rich's speech is Steve Ehrenholz. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster and General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, our guests, and Richard. Your speech was from the Basic Communications Manual. This was the third project of Getting to the Point, and your objectives were to select a speech topic and determine its general purpose, and then some specific purposes, organize it in a manner that achieves those purposes, have a beginning, body, and conclusion, and project sincerity and conviction, and strive not to use notes. Well, first of all, I really enjoyed your speech. In a previous life, I worked in customer service for Sears, and yes, it can be extremely frustrating and sometimes very entertaining what people actually think you will accept. It's when I think we are all blessed that no one can read minds. Richard, I really enjoyed your speech. Good job. What I really liked about it was your gestures. I thought your gestures were very appropriate, and they were appropriate for the scale as far as the room goes and the space that you have. Vocal variety. I really enjoyed your vocal variety, and it was specific. I knew when you were using vocal variety. The topic I found both entertaining and informative. I was asked to evaluate you on a number of points here as to the general purpose of the speech and then the specific purpose and whether it was clear. And I think you did a pretty good job with that. I think one of the things you were going to do was entertain us, but you also had wanted to give us a perspective on customer service from the provider's perspective. One of the things that I would suggest that you consider is try and see if you can shorten up your opening a little bit, because I think it took you a little bit long to get into the speech, because I was waiting to see where are we going to go with this. And so I think that you might want to shorten that up a bit, maybe get a little more directly to the customer service part, because you did spend some time sort of developing the atmosphere that you were working in, and although it really helped set the scene, I'm not sure that it really had that much to do with the rest of your speech. The ending, I thought, was also a little bit abrupt, that you might want to take one of your lines at the end and maybe incorporate that in your conclusion, like, please work with us. Or use your title. You are not a special snowflake. Work with us. I have to admit, I'm on the giving end of flack sometimes, but usually it's after I've been jerked around enough. So, and having been on the receiving end, I found your speech very entertaining, and I thought, yes, thank goodness people can't read minds. So I think if you shorten up your introduction a little bit, get us a little more quickly into your examples, and then at the end kind of come back to your title or sort of the beginning of your speech, what you wanted to accomplish, I think that that'll really help you keep up the vocal variety, the expressiveness with your gestures. And one other thing is that there might be a couple places where you could maybe use a little longer pause just to let it sink in. Maybe the unreasonableness of the request or something. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Steve. Part of the evaluation process in Toastmasters is we time everything. Once you get comfortable up here at the lectern in front of the camera, it's not about getting you up here, it's about getting you off. And that's what the timer helps do, helps keep people within the specified period of time. Today, we're fortunate that our guest, Diane Forbes, has agreed to serve as our timer. Diane, would you please come up and share the timer's report?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Okay, I was the first table topic, so I was 31 seconds. Steve, you were 1 minute and 45 seconds. And Richard, thank you, 1 minute and 45 seconds. And Rick, you were 1 minute and 16 seconds. Rich, for your speech, you were 6 minutes and 56 seconds. So you were right within the time frame. And Steve, the evaluator, you were 3 minutes and 53 seconds.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
As a general evaluator, I have an opportunity to evaluate the meeting overall. Part of the challenge that we have in having a meeting in an environment like this is the setup. And I think we're getting much better at it. There was some teamwork today. We had a chance to get things moving concurrently. And I think we started within about 5 minutes of our goal, which is a big improvement over what has historically been done. So good job, everybody, for kind of pitching in and helping out. Tables, cameras, audio, everything kind of going together. That really helped out. We didn't have an agenda for the meeting. That was something that Ms. Cormelink usually takes care of as our Vice President of Education. And she's in Las Vegas, so she didn't help us out with that. But we accommodated that quickly, filled the roles that we needed to, and were able to move on with the meeting at hand. I felt really good about the meeting that we had today, and I hope that you have too. As the Toastmaster, I also have the opportunity to ask our guest if she would like to come up and share some thoughts about our meeting today. Diane, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I really enjoyed this meeting today. It was much smaller than what I'm used to, but I felt very welcomed by everyone. And I was asked to fulfill some roles, and I haven't been in Toastmasters in 20 years, so I was a little nervous. But you all said to me, there's no answer, there's not a wrong answer, and I felt really safe and comfortable. So I think the meeting went really well, and I appreciate everyone's welcoming me. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Diane. Well, that's it. The August 15th meeting of TV Toastmasters draws to a close. If you're sitting out there wondering how you can join us, visit us online at www.tvtoastmasters.com. That's www.tvtoastmasters.com. You'll have all the information about where we're meeting, what time we're meeting, and some additional resources that you'll find very helpful. Thank you all for joining us. Diane, it was a pleasure to meet you.